Have you ever felt like you have to shrink yourself just to be accepted? Like your emotions are too intense, your thoughts too much, your presence overwhelming. You weren't born this way. Someone taught you that being yourself was a problem. You learned to shrink yourself before you even knew who you were. Not because you were too loud, not because you were too emotional, but because every time you showed up fully, something felt off. Someone pulled away, someone got uncomfortable, someone made you feel like you were a little too much, so now you hesitate. Before you speak, you think twice. Before you feel, you hold it in. Before you open up, you question if it's worth it. And deep down, there's this quiet fear. What if I am too much for everyone? Pause for a second. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you stopped yourself mid-sentence? How many times have you rewritten a message just to sound less intense or laugh things off when you actually want to be understood? It doesn't happen suddenly. It starts small. Maybe you were the kid who asked too many questions, or the one who felt things deeply, who noticed everything, who needed reassurance, who just wanted to be seen. But instead of being met with patience, you were met with silence, or irritation, or distance. Why are you overreacting? You're too sensitive. Calm down. Don't make it a big deal. So, you learned something important, but also very dangerous. You learned that being fully yourself pushes people away. And once that belief settles in, it doesn't just stay in childhood. It follows you into friendships, into relationships, into every conversation where you start to feel something real. You begin to edit yourself, not obviously, not consciously, but subtly. You tone down your excitement, you hide your sadness, you soften your opinions, you become easier to handle, because being easy feels safer than being rejected. But here's the part no one tells you. The fear of being too much isn't actually about who you are. It's about what happened when you tried to be yourself in the wrong environment. Let that sink in. You weren't too much. You were just too real. For people who didn't know how to hold that, and when your emotions weren't understood, your brain didn't think they don't have the capacity. It thought, I need to be less. That's how this pattern forms. Not through logic, through experience. You start scanning people, watching their reactions, measuring your words, predicting their responses. You become hyper aware, not because you want to, but because you had to. Because at some point, being yourself didn't feel safe. And now you might be the one who apologizes for expressing feelings, feels guilty after opening up, overthinks every interaction, or pulls back. The moment things start to get deep. Pause again. Think about the last time you felt truly seen. Not tolerated, not managed. Seen. What did that feel like? Rare, right? Because when you're used to shrinking, being accepted fully feels almost unfamiliar. There's this quiet discomfort, like, are they sure about me? Do they really mean it? Will this change if I show more? So instead of expanding into that space, you pull back again, just to be safe. And here's where it gets even deeper. Sometimes you don't just fear being too much, you fear being known. Because being known means being exposed, and being exposed in your past came with consequences, rejection, judgment, distance. So now you protect yourself by staying slightly hidden, even around people you care about, even around people who would understand. And that's the quiet tragedy of this pattern. You're not actually too much for people. You're just not letting yourself be fully seen anymore. But the mind is clever. It convinces you that this is who you are. That's just my personality. I'm just intense. I'm hard to deal with, but those aren't truths. They're conclusions you made based on moments where you weren't met properly.